Hi friends, today's session is all about object-oriented programming language. Okay, every programming and every thing that you learn into has this OOP concept, and many are feared with this OOP concept, and even more tech companies are mostly related and they are trying to push their code in OOP. Why is that so? Why is object oriented famous, or object oriented programming famous, used everywhere and used wide around the audience? Why is it used? So, before going to OOP, we'll just first tell you why this OOP is first introduced. So there is a concept called as procedural language where people used to type in like Fortran, COBOL, the languages that used to have a procedure thing. Like when you have a procedure in place, say suppose in Python itself, when you're printing it from step by step, it runs from step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, and then it takes on a procedure. This is very much becomes chaos when you have like a lot of things to write in a code. See, so you have 1200 lines of code and you wanted to change a particular part in a procedural code, it becomes very difficult. And you know, when you're trying to do a procedural programming language, it is very much to avoid other places that you can go and you can miss into. So in that case, OOP is used, object oriented programming. Okay, now I know why object oriented programming is introduced. How do I use OOP in Python and what are its advantages? So you said about procedural language. Now I wanted to learn OOP. What is the uses and what are the advantages that we are going to see now? Okay, so what is object-oriented programming language? As the name suggests, it is an object-oriented programming. It is creating objects that can contain both data and its function. What is data? Data is nothing but its entity which is combined into, and its function is what it can do. So say we can differentiate into what it has and what it can do, what it has and what it does. So object is creating objects for both data and its function. Data is what it has and function it what it does. This can be differentiated like it can contain both attribute and methods. So data is the attribute and function is the method. Okay, you are saying like attribute and function. I wanted to have a real-time example. What is a real-time example? Say suppose we have an ocean. In that ocean we have a fish. There are a lot of fishes, right? We can't differentiate each and every fishes in uh, the sea. Say God want to produce another fish and God want to create another fish. What will he do? Will he actually go create from the scratch a new fish and put it in the ocean? No. He will create a particular, okay, fish. God has multiple pathways to create, right? God has created human, fish, animals, and everything. Right? Okay, he'll see first fish, how this fish looks. They have certain methods. They have gills. They have to go under the sea, and they have attributes. Is they can swim and everything is at their method functions. So what it can do, it is their function. What it has, like the two eyes, gills, it is the attribute of it. So there is a much more different to attribute and its method. So that is attribute and method is data and its functions. So okay, I know what is attribute and method. Now why are we using object oriented programming? We use object oriented programming, say, as I already told you, we are here to remove those struggles which is passed by procedural language. Now we that now so that we have a clear structure for the programs that we get. So I have a blueprint. So blueprint is what is called as class. Okay, I have a blueprint, and from that blueprint I am creating a another object. So say for the example of fish, so God will take an example of the blueprint of a fish. Okay, this is how the skeleton looks, this is how the wings and tail and gills, these are the things that it should have. And it will take the skeleton, he or she will take the skeleton, and after that produce a workaround or produce a image so that it can be in the fish. So we describe it as fish. And other use of object oriented programming it is faster and it is easier to execute. This part I will show you how do we use it. Okay, and so other than that, it makes the code maintain and debug more easily. So see, this is also the same case in procedural language. Say suppose I have a multitude of functions and a multitude of lines of codes. Whatever it does, the debugging part is very much difficult. In this case, we have functions, but by using object-oriented programming, it makes us easy to modify the code and debug the code. And also this also adds up to another advantage of reusing the code. Say I have a function or I have created a block, I can reuse it as the god did, right? The god reused the fish skeleton and created another fish. So that makes it more reusable. Okay, so now we have seen the advantages. Now we are going into the basic block of object oriented programming. What is the basic block? As I already told you, a class is a blueprint of creating the object. Okay, what is the blueprint? Blueprint is nothing but your image or your track of something which you are going to get into. So that is what a class is. So here I have given an example, like in real life car is an object, and car has the attribute, as I said in fish, as weight and color. But its method, that what function it does, you can differentiate into has, does. It has color and weight. What it does is drive and brake. So we'll open the Jupyter notebook. Now we will see how a class is being generated in Python. So it is obviously the same in Python. Class can be created with the class keyword. Class of my, okay, we'll create car. We'll have color equal to black, and what do we say, tire equal to 5. I have added string as well. So this is how you implement a class. I have implemented car class here. Okay, so now I wanted to create an object. How can I, so God wanted, so this God already has that blueprint. How can he take from that blueprint and he wanted to get it into his own machine, right? So he wanted to think, right? So how will he use? So new car, instead of fish I'm taking new car equal to, what he will do, he will take the car, he will take the blueprint of car. So this is the object, and here I can print the object. Print this, it will be black because that car has the attribute of color equal to black. So say C equal to blue, it has the attribute which is assigned to black. So now here in this case we have another object method. What is an object method? So it can have methods, and method in objects are functional that belongs to that object. So in that case, they can have a particular method as well. Before going to the method, we are going to see the initialization function. The initialization function, which will be called automatically. So every time when the class is being called, right, the initialization function is being used to create a new object. So okay, so now what is a initialization function? Underscore underscore init. This is the init function. Uh, so the classes and objects in the simplest form that can be used to detect the real life application is what is initialization function. So as I already told you, this can be initiated with the classes beginning. So that is all up to this init functions. And when we call it, we have a self function as well. Self is the same thing. When you have it, it will be the first value of your function. So here we'll change this into self. Okay. Now classes of car, and we'll diff underscore init, will create a self, and that can have I will create the cars color and cars. Now here this I have created a function inside it, and here self dot color equal to black, dot color equal to 5. So now I wanted to add a function into it. How can I add a function? Define df of my, and what is the function break? I'm going to apply break. Print the break is being applied. So now what it does is we have a function self initialization function where we can initialize the value color and tire. So now we have a function into it. Okay, you have called and printed it a new car. You have initialized it, and how we have printed attribute. I wanted to execute the function inside my uh, car, function inside my class. How am I going to run the function inside the class? It is simple. We have called in new car, and inside this new car, I'm going to run this new underscore car dot function name. It's break. We run this. Car has no attribute break. So here I have created break. This is car, new car dot break. We are okay. What is the mistake that I did here? New car equal to car. Okay, so here I haven't run this. Equal to 5 self. Okay, I didn't execute this. If I execute this, okay, I need to initialize values to it, which I missed. Create, I'll give a color to it. So here I think something went wrong. So I was in this part where I'm changing the color and tire. Now I'm going to get this value here. So now I'll be giving the initialized values which is going to enter into it. So new car will be car of say suppose I wanted to have and the tire is this color, right? And if I apply brake, color and tire is what is it? What are we missing it in here? Color. Okay. Why is this not running? So now we have to debug on this. Why is this not running? So we have new car, S car. Okay, now see, because this one we have initialized into only car. This will come because this has ran first and this has created an error. So now we can debug whatever you can by giving it in the same function. So now we have created a car. Inside the car, we have an initialization function which you can pass any values into. And I have also told you how we can apply those methods into it. So this is how this function works. Okay, and okay, now this is how a class and object is, and we have seen the creation of class and how this class is converted into an object, and that object how it can be initialized, changing the attribute and manipulating the attribute, and whatever we do inside this is all about the attributes that we have in the place. So after that, I also showed you how to initialize the function. So inside this, you can initialize your class by having it in multiple attributes, and you can give the attribute whenever you call it into a class. Whenever you wanted to create an object, you can create a class. You can by send the inputs into the class, and you can get it from it. So this is how the class and object works. So now we'll just move into the next part. Okay, I am using object oriented programming language. What are its main useful things that I can do, that I can preach into, that I can get into? Why is it most useful? We do have four pillars of programming language, that is object oriented programming, which is much more helpful and much more helpful in other ways. Why are we using it? I mean, what are its uses? So now when we see the four pillars, that means four things that is handling this object oriented programming language and its uses is encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism. Before saying it in code, we'll just see what is encapsulation, what is abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism. First, what is encapsulation? As we saw now, right? Encapsulating the data and its method and bounding it together is encapsulation. So here we have bounded the class of car with the attribute as well as the method, what it has and what it does. So this is binding it together, right? You can bind it, but whenever you wanted to create a new car, you cannot create something which has which you can assign to an attribute and then you can set, right? This becomes your blueprint to an application. So this is how you bind it together and then you use it for every instantiation. Uh, so this is encapsulation is. A class is an example of encapsulation as it encapsulates all the data is members function, variables, etc. As I now showed you. Okay, what is now abstraction? Abstraction, so implementation of process and methods on the user, abstraction can be used. So how it can be used? By giving an underscore before this. Underscore before whatever you have it. So underscore before this. It can be said like it is the private method. Why are we actually restricting every member to use particular value and not the other one? Because this may be the say suppose I wanted a car, and inside the car the headlight I want the beam light. That is common for everything, but that is an attribute that you can change. But you wanted your car to be having the same symbol everywhere, so that is an attribute, but you don't want to change. You make that attribute very private to yourself. That is the place where abstraction comes into place. You wanted the attribute to change, but that should not change the originality of your product, originality of your code. That is where you use abstraction. Okay, what is the next thing? Inheritance. Inheritance is an example of your father-child relationship, right? So multiple places, multiple thoughts may come. Like you inherit some qualities of your home and some quality of your parents. What is the quality? Why is it useful? Because their thoughts and their attributes and their methods can contribute to yourself. So in that case, we have a reusability of your code. That is how you can create parent class is inheriting from the base class. So that is what you inherited from one class to other class. This also I will show it in the code. And child class is the class that inherits from another class. So I have a parent class, and from that I inherit from the class is called as an derived class. And last but not least is polymorphism. Say polymorphism is nothing but responding differently to different messages, but that is not only the only thing. Polymorphism is not only that, but it can bound together on whatever the output that you give. It should be in that place that you can edit anything and make that into bunch of code that you can get. Say a module. Module is nothing but you actually go into the code and you just pip it and you install it. But the cases like many others use it as a tool where so you can learn from it, where it can respond differently to different codes. It is very much robust so that whatever the code you create, you import and create, it is so much robust that they cannot change it, but you can actually import it and you can do anything. So these are the four pillars of uh, these are the four pillars of OOP, and I will show you. I have showed encapsulation and abstraction. We'll see how the inheritance is in place. So how this inheritance works. We'll take this one, Jupyter notebook, and now we are going to see inheritance. What is how we can have this inheritance in place? Okay, so now I will create a I'll create a car class of car. I'll create a personal PVC. The person's initial function will be self of uh, name comma last. And now I have created this function. Inside this function self dot name equal to name. Self dot age equal to age. Now I have initiated the values. Now I'll create a function. Define. I'll print that guy's name. What is name? I'll have it and I'll self it. Now after this, I'll print self dot name and self dot age. Okay, now I have created a function. Now I'll create a person. Okay, I'll create my name. I'll create Karthik as a person. From person, I'll have a code for code key. And in this person, I'll give him the name of Karthik, and his age will be 30. So code key is now Karthik and 30. He's the code key object. Now I'm going to run this. Code k dot what is his name? I want to reveal his name. What is his name? What is the mistake that we have did here is class is the small c that you have it. So I have what is the name is Karthik and his age is 30. This is irrelevant, right? We'll take the age. So this is how you create a class, and so there are multiple. So we can create code 47, and here I'll give, you all know who code name 47 is, Hitman, and this age is maybe 48. So now I wanted to know who the code name 47 is and what is his name, and I don't want code K, and I only want code name 47, and the code name 47 will be Hitman. Yes. So now each and every object can be taken from the main class. So you get it right now. Now, how are we going to create another class which should inherit from this class? Say I wanted to create from here, I just wanted to create another class. So persons may be anyone, right? I wanted to create a class of I don't know. I want, say I'm going to create a game. I'm going to program a game. Inside that game, I can do anything. I have people. I have the one who is the hero and villain, and many other soldiers that you have. So inside this game, in persons, I have given this name and the character's name. So I wanted to have this person's class and create multiple soldiers. So what will I do? I'll I can copy and paste it, but I don't want to copy paste. That is very symptomatic, and that makes us feel very unused. And we wanted to create a reusable code. How can we use a reusable code? So for soldier in my uh, gaming program, I wanted to have a soldier which should be inherited from person. So he should be, and I can pass. So if I give soldier, and if I have like, also if I give what is Subash as a as a soldier, and I will give a code soldier 1, which will be equal to soldier first of the Bose, and his age is 24. Now when I run this soldier, it doesn't have any code, but it will take from persons. This is how you inherit. What is, you have one argument missing. What is its name? Okay, self dot person. I'll person. I'll get pass. Soldier, what is name? I'm giving soldier and I'm giving SSB, and soldier is not this soldier, and this is soldier 1. This is soldier 1 and what is name. So now why is it giving one argument person required? Is it will take from persons. Persons will have two positional arguments required. So now when I run this, okay, first soldier is SSB. Then this is how you inherit the values from your parent class. So this is your base class and this is your parent class. Okay, now I have everything which is compared to inheritance, polymorphism, and everything. So what can we do now? So this can be used elsewhere in the program, and this can be used multiple places. Okay, we'll try to create a program, or we'll try to, I showed you the example. uh, we'll just try to create a vehicle class where we have the max speed and mileage and the instance attributes. Okay, how to create it? We'll just create it, class vehicle, and I will define the initialization vehicle. I'll give it max and speed. So in order to give a real life example, I'm giving you, the game will not be good for the game, for the real example. So I'll self max speed, which have it in the max underscore speed. This one is what you have it in your dashboard of your bike, right? And what mileage it is. Instead of mileage, okay, we'll do mileage. Now I'll give RE and it will be my vehicle, and what is it? Its max speed is 180, comma mileage, or mileage 25. And if I wanted to print this, you already know, right? RE dot printing. RE dot, if I give tab, it should work. Max speed, and RE dot, if I give tab, and it give mileage. If I run it, okay, I have 185 mileage for it and 180 or 35 mileage and 180. So this is how you implement something which is compared, as in the class. Okay, now we have seen what is the four pillars and everything. What are we achieving from it is much more a piece of state we have. Okay, now we quickly move into what is a framework. What is a framework? Framework is nothing but the collection of modules, collection of classes, and they actually have a particular blueprint, or they create everything for you. You just have to create a little chunk of code. They make it life more easy, and it comes to you, you have to implement it. So we have multiple of frameworks in in Python, like PyTorch and PyTest and Flask, Django, and everything. Why are this being used? Say, suppose I wanted to develop a backend. It takes for me to 15 to 20 days to create a backend server, everything when you're starting from scratch. To avoid it, Python is easy enough and it is helpful enough to give you much more detailed constructive view of you, and it has given multiple constructions so that it makes you easy for creating and program. So it makes the code more secure, and we can duplicate and this code can be avoided, and the bugs that you create. So the 20 days and what I'm talking is like it will take more of your effort and more of your bugs. You have to, before going to project, you have to first solve that bugs. That is not far from it, right? So whenever you're going to create a program, you're going to have your own vision. So that is not from it. So, and after it, it creates a sophisticated technologies for you to build a project. There are in Python there are multiple frameworks for mobile development framework, web development framework, and database framework. Say example, like for mobile related framework, we have Flutter and Dart and everything. For web development framework, we have Flask and Django. Data science, already we have pandas and other frameworks, CSV, OpenCV, and other much more data science related frameworks. Okay, what are we going to do in next class? Not in this class. Next class, what are we going to learn? What is Flask and Django? Flask and Django is basically a full stack web development framework. So they are much more easier and simply simplified when compared to both web development frameworks, and you can create REST APIs, you can create a website and host it into the application, and then you can check, and there are multiple more advantages for Django. Django is like full stack web development framework, which is very big, and you have admin panel and everything in there, and which makes your time much more easier, and which makes your time much more easier, and comparatively to the development, it makes much more value to your project. And we'll see what is Flask and what is Django. Flask is a micro web framework, as I already told you, which is written in Python. It is it has validations, it has URL hosting, hashing, hash maps, and other place that you can get into, which is much more into basic level of programming, basic level of what do you say, very basic of backend. But in Django, it is much more complex, and even the much more complex things can be solved in that. What okay, what is the complexity when compared to framework? You told me like framework makes it easy, right? What are we going to achieve by this complexity? Okay, now I'm going to Django, where you can simplify the web development process. Say like for every web development project, we'll be having an admin panel, we'll be having a bootstrap page and everything. Right? There are reusable components and less code is required for you to create a Django application. So that is why Django is famous. But to be known, Flask is also famous because Flask is the place where you can have that application, you can create an application from the scratch. So this is why we use Flask and Django, that will be getting it into your next session. Today was to get you into object oriented programming as though we have time, and that is for today's session for object oriented programming, and you have a slight knowledge on framework. Today you'll be getting an exercise for object oriented programming language, because framework, I wanted to open your eyes on framework. since because from next week we'll be having a exercise in framework and exercise. I mean, we'll be participating and smuggling through what is a framework. So I wanted to give a heads up on what are we going to see in this framework. So that is from me, guys.